Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to episode 6 of the Boomer Talk podcast. I'm Jordan. You might know me as One Up. My co host is Taylor, aka Somebody's Gun. And our guest today is a rule breaker, a game changer, also defeated Logan Paul in a boxing match. Leven2k, thank you for joining the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm happy that I'm gonna be carried. Like I'm used to like having to carry people, like try direct conversation and make sure like people are actually talking. So I feel like a king today. I'm just gonna sit back, relax, waffle for a bit, and let you guys do all the hard work.
All right, sounds good. So the big thing on everybody's minds in competitive Fortnite this week is the once in a blue moon communication from Epic. They put out an update a couple days ago on a few things. Some updates to rules, some updates on upcoming tournaments from third parties, a bunch of different things. Taylor, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So I think where I want to go first with this is start with the blog post, then we'll get into the tournaments. Because the blog post covers a lot of different things, including FNCS and the schedule of tournaments. But we'll get into a little more about the rules. There's definitely some rule changes that we saw. One of the coolest things to me is we're going to be bringing back broadcasts. So Epic saw the broadcasts were successful and there was community feedback that was apparently positive. People weren't constantly shitting on the broadcasts. I'm sure some people were, but generally they were good. And hopefully that means Epic is going to continue to work on the tools that are given to the casters and the platform and the stream. So that way we can widen the reach of this, because in my opinion, broadcasts are a start to getting people involved in Comp Fortnite. So yeah, what do you think, Levin, as a caster yourself?
I think it's one of them things where like it's important that we continue to have broadcasts because really and truly, like broadcasts are what have given us some of like our most memorable moments in Fortnite history. In other games as well, like a lot of the most memorable moments come from these broadcast events. And like you said, it's a good gateway for people to help themselves get into competitive, right? Formulate some sort of interest. And I'm excited that for them they acknowledge that we like broadcasts and they're going to look to continue to improve broadcasts, right? Because as much as last season's broadcast was great and it was great having all those guys, casting, seeing people like Clay and Sancho finally getting an opportunity, we still got a long way to go in terms of what we can do to improve and make things even better, when it comes to broadcast. So excited to see what happens.
Yeah, it's honestly just a good. It just makes sense from a marketing perspective for me. Like, if you're gonna throw thousands of dollars into these tournaments, you might as well get some marketing out of it, get some viewership, try to grow the game a little bit. And they also said that they're gonna try to experiment with some new casters, so potentially might see Levin on the broadcast. Yeah.
I'd love to. I'd love to do it. Like my biggest thing is like I say this to a lot of people when people ask me like about casting or whatnot. Like, yeah, I cast and like I'm trying to improve my casting because I don't even like myself. Like I think my casting has a long way to go in terms of improving. Like obviously, yeah, people say like, oh, you got the voice and whatnot, but got a long way to go. But as much as I want to cast on the main broadcast, definitely like I want to experiment with trying to do other stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? Like initially when I was like interested in esports, like casting wasn't my main thing that I wanted to do, right? Like I wanted to be like a kind of a desk analyst, right? Someone who's on stage doing things related to the competition, not necessarily one of the commentators or the casters, you know what I'm saying? So casting based off of just the way Fortnite's been, like casting is like the main way to get involved in the Epic broadcast right now. I'd love to see them experiment to have it so that other people can get involved to offer, large amounts of value to the community outside of just casting. And even like in just a small way, right? You saw the way they did like the little interviews with people, right? Like getting like Emad on or getting even me on, right? Like doing stuff like that, experimenting with stuff like that more. I'd love to see them do that. And any way that they'd like me to be involved, I'd accept, you know what I'm saying? But once again, like if they can experiment with doing even more things, because you can add so much more to a broadcast other than just having casters, right? And so if they're willing to kind of experiment with those kind of things, like even me now outside of the Epic broadcast, I'm trying to work on a couple things with some other people who are doing some competition-based stuff and broadcast-based stuff, and trying to get myself involved with that outside of casting, right? So that I can show and say to Epic, hey, look, I was able to get involved and add to a broadcast in a positive way without it necessarily being through casting. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and that's like kind of the good part about Epic being so hands off in the past few years is that people have kind of grown their brands around doing these types of things on their own. So you already have like a field of people who have been doing this with very little resources, and doing it pretty successfully. And like it's so easy for Epic to kind of just like pick a few guys to come on to the broadcast and help out with the broadcast because they're already doing these things. They already have experience with it.
Yeah.
Alright.
I saw. No, I was gonna say I saw you guys like you guys were trying out the casting thing like, and I want to see I want to just see more people get involved and like get an opportunity to cast events, right? Like, and with that, like the reason why I liked you two casting when I saw you guys casting with each other is the fact that like you guys have like your partnership, right? You two casting, so it allows you guys to work on casting together, right? Obviously, Bala and Shio, their casting partnership, right? I personally wanted to see them cast on the main broadcast together. Just like whenever I wanted to see Bala casting, I wanted it to be with him and Shio. Do you know what I'm saying? Like all of the casters are amazing and they can cast with each other because they are just amazing casters and they can do that. But being able to really see people like work on their casting together and build dynamics, right, that are memorable, is what I want to see. You know what I'm saying? Like, so hopefully they allow that to happen next season. And with the broadcast, like I want to see certain people casting together in partnerships as a duo consistently.
Yeah.
That's definitely something we see in traditional sports too. Like everyone has their broadcast team that they work with. So it makes sense to transition to be comfortable with working with or speaking with whoever throughout the broadcast. All right. I'm going to push us forward if that's cool with you. One up. You got anything else?
Sure. No, go ahead.
All right. And I guess the next chunk of the blog post was really just, in my opinion, Epic actually is listening to the things the community is saying. So whether or not there's going to be changes to the current loot pool in competitive and arena, they have stated that they want to give everything a 2-week trial period before putting them into competitive events or arena. Any new items are going to get that trial period to see how things work out first and then put them in moving forward. And that's something you see in League of Legends. It's a full patch before any kind of changes get moved into League of Legends. So they could be playing on an old patch while everyone else in the world is playing on a different style of game. And I don't think we'll ever see that with Fortnite. They love all this new stuff. But it's awesome to see them actually listening. And then as well as just the integrity updates, fortifying that base of rules that we have, because we've seen so many issues with various different, cheating accusations and different pieces that are, maybe a gray line of, is this acceptable or is it not? And one of the biggest things that comes to mind is that they stated live coaching is now acceptable, which is something we've looked for a while because it was really just up in the air and the rules really didn't say anything about it. So love to get you guys' thoughts on that and just the general improvements on Epic having an ear to the community.
Yeah. I also think part of the loot pool thing is that they aren't there's no tournaments for a good few weeks from now. And I know a lot of people are complaining about that, but I think they're doing that intentionally to give them time to assess the current loot pool, assess like the state of the game, because like I feel like they're almost in like it's a tough situation because if there were tournaments right away after the season started, people will be complaining about that, about how it's just a massive change already and they're going straight into tournaments. People will be complaining about that. So now that we're waiting 3-4 weeks for them to assess the loot pool, maybe like the map water to go down, whatever it is, like get to a stable state. People are complaining about that too. So it's a tough situation for Epic. But I think it's good. I also think it's like there is something left to be desired in that some of their communication isn't always that specific. Like they said that they're going to assess new items coming into the game for 2 weeks. I don't know if that means that they're assessing the items that are currently in the game. Like, are helicopters going to be in for the rest of the season? Crash pads, grenades, like, are those things going to be here? We don't really know. I feel like they just got to be a little bit better, a little bit more clear with these types of things.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of them things where it's like, yeah, you said you're gonna assess items, but like what items like are you assessing? Like, yeah, helicopters went in comp last season, right? But you've not made it clear that that's the same for this season. Like, you've just told us you're assessing items that are coming into the game. Like, even with that point, initially when I read it, like I was like, we kind of already knew this because I saw people like panicking about how like the loot pool right now is very messy and that, you know, there's no difference in pub loot pool and arena loot pool. And it's like, that happened last season. Like, so I was always like expecting that to be the case, right? They want us to play with the new items, experiment with the new items. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, more communication will work because some items that weren't in comp last season, but were in the pub loot pool, people are taking a liking to, right? So like crash pads, right? Crash pads weren't in comp last season, but they were in the game. Like people were using them in pubs all the time. But this season they've been in arena, and I've seen some pros say, "Hey, look, crash pads can be really effective, right? If we use them, if they fix certain issues, whatever the issue may be, crash pads would be really good." So, is crash pads one of the items they're assessing, or because it wasn't in last season, is it not going to be in the game this season? Like, they need to still clear up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. 100%. Is there anything else on the blog post we need to cover?
I mean, the last would just be the tournaments. We can dive into, you guys kind of touched on it, but the fact that tournaments are not exactly immediate when the season pops. You know, we've all kind of grown to expect Epic as soon as a new season drops, like, all right, where are the tournaments? Where are the comp events? Like, let's get right into it. We've all been waiting for this new season to come out. But this time, again, that they could leave some additional messaging and explanation as to why they're doing it, but we're waiting until August to get the FNCS or the premier event for this season. Granted, there's way more events than we've ever had this season compared to anything in the past. Even during World Cup, this is more events, maybe not more money, but this is more stuff going on than we've ever had. So I don't know. I like it because they're waiting and being hesitant to actually start putting events in the game. Like, if you guys watch any sort of scrims, there's still issues with endgame. Like, endgame has not been improved or optimized whatsoever on this patch, and I'm happy to see that they're not immediately going to throw players into a game that's not exactly, I'd say, competitive at the end of the game when you can't even do stuff.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, I think it's one of them things where it's like, I'm happy that they are kind of like delaying official events, and I like that we have a bunch of different like things going on this season. Event wise, like in EU, we have like the Mr. Savage Cup going on. I know OCE finally are having their cup with Lachlan. Obviously, we've got all the DreamHack stuff happening. Right now, we have the Elite Cup. That's going to be happening this weekend, right? There's a bunch of stuff going on, like you said, and I think it's good. And hopefully, like, it's not in vain, right? In the sense of hopefully Epic is actually looking at all these events and actually taking the positives out of them. I would hate for us to have, like, for the most part, nobody really likes like the point system we had for solo FNCS Invitational, or like people, like there's different point systems that people, you know, would like to see tested out or tried. And if we have all these different solo events, which we all agree have better point systems than a solo FNCS Invitational, only for us to end up with this season solo FNCS having the same point system as last season, it will just trigger me, you know? Like, it's like, what are we doing this for then? You know what I'm saying? Like, so hopefully we actually see them look at all these events happening and try and make changes to their official event based off of the successes of all these different events.
That's a good point. And it kind of brings us into our next topic, which is about their competitive philosophy and just like philosophy about tournaments in general. And yeah, so I guess like my main question about this is Epic doing competitive as just like a marketing strategy, or do they actually care about like competitive integrity? Like you talk about like point systems and stuff like that. Do they actually care about that, or is it just a marketing campaign and they don't really care about making their tournaments actually good?
You know, I want to see what Taylor has to say about this one.
All right, I guess I'll go first. So I've gone back and forth on this so many times. Like, the way I see Epic Games running competitive events makes me highly doubt that they actually give a shit how these events go. But then they come back and do things like they did this season that are like, okay, if they didn't care how it went, why did they update the rules? Why did they give people different opportunities for contenders and champs? Why are they now listening to the pros about adding items into the comp loot pool if they don't actually care how it goes? Like, if you're Epic Games and you're just like, dude, I want to see people hit trick shots and do all this crazy stuff with items and all the crap I put into the game, then why are you going to delay putting items into the game? So I think at first it was just a marketing tool. It was part of the beginning of Fortnite and their massive acceleration and growth to throw money at the game, get everyone involved, and they did that. Like, Fortnite is probably peaked. I'd be amazed to see this game continue to drop higher numbers than we already have. But from most recent events, like, I think it kind of has. With like the Travis Scott event, the like actual in-game events, we're seeing huge numbers still, and that has nothing to do with comp. So I think they're now starting to separate these two, and we're seeing things like the movies, the concerts. Like, now they're using those as marketing tools as opposed to competitive, and allowing the actual competitive team to go to work and do things that they want to do. It may not be 100%. There may still be some on the VP of revenue is still making some decisions about how competitive events are going. And Nate Nanzer may not have full control, but he is at least pushing for a better, more competitive style of gaming, which we might be able to call esports one day.
Yeah. I mean, to me, there's still like a huge marketing aspect to it, though. Like, the one thing that stands out to me recently is that they're pushing for like branding their top players. Like, we see they are now naming cups after individual players. Last season they had Agents of the Week, where they would like highlight some of the best players each week. This isn't necessarily competitive, but like we now are seeing skins in the game that are for specific players: Ninja, Loser Fruit. So they're moving towards branding players. And I think like they're trying. So yeah, I don't know if they're even really separating the two, competitive and like, you know, musical events or whatever you want to call them. There's definitely still like a marketing aspect to it that they're trying to push and trying to grow on the competitive side as well.
I think you guys both touched on like really interesting things that like are such like deep conversations when it comes to Epic. And just like their whole kind of philosophy and how they approach things. Like, let's like, so with like what Taylor said, right, about like the Travis Scott event, those kind of like, you know, movies, all those kind of things that they do. Yeah, like the numbers on those kind of events, crazy kind of numbers, you know what I'm saying? Like, to the point where like a lot of people would think, hey, Fortnite has peaked, but when they're doing these kind of events where they're just breaking records after records each and each time, it's like, how far can we take this? You know, like maybe they haven't peaked in that aspect of things at least. But even with that, Taylor, like what's stopping them from like combining the two? right? Like I think I spoke about this on a stream a long time, not that long ago, but during like FNCS Solo Invitational. Like I said, imagine if they had like some sort of, you know, event similar to the Travis Scott kind of thing, but before like a big comp event is about to happen, right? And use that to then directly, you know, streamline all those people paying attention to that event towards the comp event, right? Or stopping them from, you know, just having it so that they're not involved with each other. Like, I don't want to see the Travis Scott event happen halfway through the FNCS finals. Like, I don't want to see that, right? But like, well, why don't we, you know, allow them to work hand in hand? You know, like things like that would be great. Even like seasonal events, right? You know, give them as much as like the map storyline is cool and whatnot. I'm sure there's people that care about that stuff. Like, I don't really care about that stuff, bro. So like, find a way to make that more interesting and direct it to the comp event stuff that's going on, right? Like these things can be intertwined, right? If you get creative with them. And even with what you said, One Up, right? Like the way they're like marketing players, this is a really big philosophy thing with Epic, because how Epic like operate, and how they have operated, it's very anti-organization. Like I just don't think Epic care too much for organizations, and I don't think they necessarily want organizations to be that involved in their game. And everything that they've ever done, like this is arguable, right? But everything they've ever done is like is like a stepping stone for players to have to rely on an organization less and less. In my eyes, like large amounts of money compared to any other game. Like as a Fortnite pro, just from actual in-game earnings, you can make more than the average pro in any other esport. When it comes to just like what they did with World Cup, like limiting how much branding you can have, like all of these things. Even now, if you look at the actual cup stuff, right? People may not pay attention to this, but if you are a player like Savage or Benji who has one of these cups, like you can leverage that to sponsors. Like, hey, look how many people are just seeing my name and my brand in game and playing my event that's attached to my name. Like, and that helps players, right? And that is the kind of thing that helps a player as a brand independently. I think Epic are trying to push to help players to be able to brand themselves independently. How far will they continue to take that remains to be seen. But yeah, like I think they just are really trying to push like for this kind of, we don't really need organizations in our ecosystem. We can take care of our players, which I think is hard, but I don't think they'll be able to achieve fully. I think we'll always just have orgs around, but interesting talking point, I guess.
Yeah, I really like that they're going in the player direction. Like in my opinion, people watch the game because they like watching certain players. Like you grow attached to your favorite streamer, your favorite pro player.
Yeah.
And even if you look at like professional traditional sports, like if you look at a league like the NBA, who they're great at marketing individual players. Like everybody knows who LeBron James is, and you know he's a massive brand. If you look at sports that aren't doing as well recently, like the MLB, they're awful at branding their players. Like the best MLB player right now is Mike Trout, and I guarantee, like whoever is watching this video right now, like there are so many who don't know who Mike Trout is, and
I don't know who Mike Trout
yeah,
is.
literally, he's literally one of the best MLB baseball players of all time, and there are so many people who have no idea who he is, and you could see like how that affects the game in general. Like baseball is probably the slowest growing sport right now, and basketball is probably the biggest growing sport right now.
Yeah, in America, it is like the fastest growing sport right now. It's on pace to like overtake the NFL in terms of size in America.
Yeah. So yeah, in my opinion, going towards like branding players and trying to grow that as a marketing scheme could definitely pull in a lot of viewers that don't necessarily play the game. Like they're just kind of casual players, but would be interested in watching.
I think that's interesting, just because, and that, like, just last quick thing with that, like, I think that's one of the things where it's interesting because even in like leagues like the NBA, right? Traditionally, right, you have people who are attached to a team, right? You're attached to the Celtics, especially if you're from Boston, right? Maybe it's your hometown team or whatever. And same with football. Football, this is kind of happening as well, but where it's like players like nowadays, like especially my generation, I know you boomers maybe not the same, right? But like my generation, like people are just more attached to players than they are actual teams, right? Like I have friends who will just follow LeBron to whatever team he's on, right? They support the Cavs, now they support the Lakers, you know what I'm saying? And people used to make the argument in Fortnite, and I used to make that argument as well, that hey, we don't even have teams to attach people's like support. I can't even use I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like people aren't attached to a team in Fortnite. You know, it would be a lot better if people were attached to teams, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. Like you support the team because of the players, and in esports now it's the same, right? In other esports, people support Simple. If Simple's on Navi right now, if Simple's to move to FaZe, people would support FaZe. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like really good to push for player marketing and player branding.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's definitely true. I don't have a favorite NBA team. I'm not that big of an NBA fan, but I definitely follow certain players. And
Despicable.
no, I'm more of a college basketball guy. All right.
What college basketball team you support?
Duke.
Okay, I can respect that then.
Yeah,
I respect that.
Yeah.
These guys. Here, there's one thing I think we also have to touch on, which has been somewhat overlooked through this whole conversation, is the console tournament. Because I think that plays a big piece into the competitive philosophy, or at least what Epic's trying to do with competitive event. And I just argued against them being a non-marketing event and like actually trying to push for it. But giving console the same prize pool as the top players in the world is not competitive, in my opinion, and done 100% for marketing, because it's for the growth of the game and gonna help more people get involved in comp and like actually look at competitive Fortnite as something they enjoy and want to play and want to watch. But at the same time, it's like paying someone in the major leagues the same as someone paying someone in the minor leagues. Totally just blew that, but I think you guys get the point. It doesn't make sense. Besides them actually going into, you know, let's grow the scene, which I like as someone who's been invested in the scene, but I also hate it as someone who's competitive driven and then see this where it's kind of like, fuck, what is going on here? So like to get your guys' thoughts on that. I think we've touched on it before, but
yeah.
Little deeper.
The question is like, when do you stop growing the scene and just kind of like focus on the best players? I've already said this multiple times on the podcast, but I'm hoping that when the new generation of consoles come out, the PS5, whatever the Xbox One is called, they're gonna have better like hardware, and theoretically they'd be able to kind of like compete with PC players in terms of hardware at least. So maybe at that point they'll merge the prize pools, because it doesn't really make sense if you have consoles getting 120 frames. It doesn't really make sense to have them as a separate category. So I'm hoping that's the end of the separate prize pools at that point. But I guess we have to wait and see.
I think it's one of them things where, like you said, like I pray the new generation just puts an end to all of this like rubbish, because like the fact like I honestly like, in terms of like the things that I value in terms of a competitive game or sport, whatever it is, I hate the fact that top controller players in this game have to make the decision of, do I play on console just to get like a bigger chance of winning money, or do I compete with actual like the good players? Like I hate that, like that the fact that that exists in itself, like I despise that, right? And so hopefully like we get to a stage where, like you said, at what point do you say, okay, let's stop like focusing so much on growing the scene? Because all this console like tournament stuff, it's great for growing like a larger audience for competitive in a way, as long as you're doing it right, which I don't necessarily think they are doing, but I don't think they're doing it wrong either. But that's like a separate conversation. I would like to see them start to gear towards like actually making competitive good, right? Okay, we've grown competitive to this massive size, but can we make competitive like actually a lot better and improve the scene at the top level? And I think hopefully like, you know, we see that happen. There would have to be like a lot of changes in terms of like their philosophy to make that happen. Because at the moment, their philosophy, from what they've told us at least, is like, we don't care about the people at the top. We want everyone to be successful. We want everybody to win, which in itself is literally like the opposite of what competitive means. But that's their philosophy, right? So yeah.
That's the game we choose to love and support. Yeah.
And one more question before we wrap up this topic. Epic has started to move more into third-party tournaments. I know, Taylor, you have some thoughts on that and how that affects the competitive scene. Do you want to?
Yeah, I got you. So, in my opinion, they've been totally closed off, similar to the way that they were with orgs as to working with third party. There was a couple of other large third-party events that we saw, and they gave people the ability to host like small, granted $25,000 isn't that small, but that also includes like anything that is involved. So $25,000 is your limit to put on a competitive event, unless you want Epic's approval, and they really haven't given that out to that many people to work on different events. So the big one is obviously DreamHack, right? We have a $1.75 million prize pool for the rest of this year from a third-party sponsor hosting online event. And that's 100% because they already worked with DreamHack, trust them, and there's just not going to be lands. There's going to be no big lands this year because of COVID, Corona, whatever you want to call it. So DreamHack definitely worked with them to try and figure out, okay, what can we do that can be done differently? And being able to have those large third-party events is kind of going to give Epic a way to take some of the weight of the competitive tournaments off their shoulder if they continue to do that, because they can start bringing in sponsors to throw this money towards events such as DreamHack. The only problem is we don't know if they're actually going to continue this, but it does show a start of them showing that there's a possibility competitive Fortnite survives without Epic Games, which is really cool to me. And that's, to me, the biggest part of this is we see DreamHack throwing $1.75 million at this game. That shows to me that people take this game seriously, whether or not the competitive integrity is perfect, right? So we envision this game in a certain way and we want it to be played a certain way, and Epic tends to go in different directions. But regardless, it's here to stay, and there's people that want pieces. Like we see Intel jump in now. That's a huge sponsor to jump into this game. DTS is an audio sponsor that just partnered with Vanish, who's mostly a Fortnite org. They started in Fortnite. That's another big sponsor jumping into this game. And we're starting to see, bigger names and companies jump into this game. And not that Epic really had anything to do with the Vanish one, but they had to let the Intel Cup happen. So, there's different things that have shown me they're letting people start to be included in their game, which wasn't necessarily true at the beginning.
I think, okay, so what I will say is, from what I know and what I'm assuming, just based off of the history of Fortnite competitive in the past, like this whole DreamHack is definitely being paid for by Epic. Like, I don't think any of that prize pool is coming from DreamHack. But that doesn't matter in the context of what I want to say, in the sense of it's important that Epic are trusting these TOs to run events, in a sense, right? I don't know how familiar you guys are with competitive Counter-Strike, right? But with like competitive Counter-Strike, you have Valve, right, who are the publisher or whatever. And for the most part, like Valve don't do anything. But Valve will for the majors, right? For the major events that happen in Counter-Strike every year, Valve will there'll be like a bidding war between all the different TOs, right? Like ESL, E-League, whoever it is. They'll be like, hey, we have this pitch, we have this idea for the major. And Valve will essentially pick which one they like, and there you go, you run the major for this year, right? Or however many majors there are that year. And with that, like Valve aren't necessarily that much involved in what goes on, but they allow things to happen. and like for the majority of the CS circuit in a year, it's mainly just organized by TOs, right? And it does get messy because like there's so many different parties controlling things, but it gets you thinking like if we can have a scene in Fortnite where Epic doesn't have to be so hands-on with everything, right? They allow different CEOs to run things here. And because they still control things, especially if they're going to be financially so involved, right? They can allow to make sure there's no clashes, there's no, issues in that kind of sense. And it means that we can have like a really, really good Fortnite circuit per year. Because as much as like I love having FNCSs, a bunch of different FNCSs, and then potentially a World Cup like that we're gonna have next year. I don't want that to be the only competition we have. Like, I'd love if we have, some sort of massive like DreamHack based event per year that happens in Fortnite. Same with other TOs. Like, it just adds more opportunity for large competition that is just memorable, right? Assuming no COVID stuff is, really big next year, it allows us to have more potential for lands, which I'm a big fan of. Like you said, Taylor, it's good that they are starting to trust, the TOs more, because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of it is about, right? Allowing like they just allowing like trusting TOs to use their IP is like a big thing. So it's good, I guess. It's a positive, definitely.
Yeah, and just one piece I wanted to add on to this is we're starting to see them put the tournaments in game. So not only do you have to fully run a tournament through like, sharing a code, hoping it doesn't leak and tournaments getting griefed, which is going to scare sponsors away and potential other tournament organizers from wanting to work in Fortnite. They're giving them tools to run it in game, to run it quote unquote safely, which is then going to continue to bring people into the scene and want them to invest as well. So it's gonna work both ways. Epic's giving a little, they're gonna get some. Hopefully, they keep that give and take and let us continue to roll with where we're at.
All right, let's move on to the last topic then. This is completely disconnected from everything we've talked about so far. But let's talk about, I guess, is it more important to, I guess, catch up with the meta or work on your fundamentals as a player?
Interesting. So what, like, is it more important to improve on your game or improve or work towards like the meta game?
Yes.
I actually like this because it highlights one thing that like Fortnite might be lacking in a sense. I don't know if we're lacking because we still do have it, but that is a competition that happens in all sports, and even in a lot of esports we see it, where we've been using basketball, so for the sake of basketball, like I'll say it again, right? So like in basketball, in the NBA, right, you have the whole season that goes on. During the season, you're gonna be working towards the meta game, like as a team, working to work on your strategies, your synergy as a team. Hey, this is the team we struggle against the most. These are the tactics we need to employ to be able to beat them. During the off season, that's when players will work on their own, fundamentals, right? Hey, last season I was shooting poorly from the field. This summer I'm gonna work on my shooting and improve that. In Fortnite, you're gonna have to be doing those things constantly, like just because we don't have like 8 months of competition, then a 4-month break, right? We have competition here, small break there, competition here, small break there. So you should be working on both of these things like in tandem, non-stop. But this is important because as a top player, you might not have the time and the not even the commitment, but you just might not have the time to work on the meta game as much as you should. This is why you have a coach. This is why you have an analyst. This is why you have people to be able to do a lot of that work for you, right? So that you can just implement that while you focus on your own fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? So these guys both know a lot about coaching and analytics, right? So you get one up, you get somebody's gun, help you out, figure these things out for you, while you can focus on your little creative cranking and your little aim lab, Kovacs, whatever it is you need to work on. You go from there.
What about when the meta kind of puts itself like it kind of like messes with the fundamentals. Like this season, the addition of the charged shotgun, you have to play the game even like from a micro standpoint significantly differently than you did with the pump shotgun, right? So that's gonna like it's gonna affect how you make edits, it's gonna affect how you build stuff like that. What about situations like that?
That's funny. Like people in my chat will come in my chat and like ask me for advice on like, hey Levin, like with the charge shotgun, like how do I and like I just don't read their messages because I can't help them. Like I can't help them. Like I'm terrible with the charge shotgun. Like I don't know what I'm doing with it. Like so I just don't read their messages, but don't tell them that. They don't know. Look, like that's really important because like you said, this is something we're going through right now. One of them things with that, like you're just gonna that's one of them times where you're just gonna have to be playing more, man. Like the only way people are gonna be able to get better with the charge shotgun and understanding more is just from using it more and coming up against it more. It's like it's one of those guns or weapons where it has a large learning curve. People still have been playing nonstop and still aren't really good with it. I've just given up. Like I just haven't been playing as much because I just can't get good with it. I did try to play a bit today. Didn't work out for me too well. But look, people like if you're playing a lot, right? If you're watching how top players are using it, like look for the people who are good at with it and watch them, see how they're using it, see what angles they're taking, see and if you have the connections, right? Speak to some people that are good with it about it, right? But I don't think with the charge shotgun there's going to be this magic trick like, this is the one thing you need to know to be able to be good at the charge shotgun. I don't think it's going to be that. You know, you're just going to have to actually get that in-game experience with it to be good at it.
I would agree. And the shame is that like your mechanics and fundamentals now are hurting you because the charge shotgun is so different than what we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Like that is my biggest issue. This past season, I was trying to work on my mechanics, my editing, building, and all that to be able to like quickly edit and take shots. And now there's a gun that's completely different than what I was just working on. So I'm in the same boat as Levin. I suck with the charge shotgun. 100%. I pick it up every time because I want to get better with it, but I absolutely suck. And it's because in my head, like I just can't get it through my thick skull that you need to hold it down and release the button to actually shoot the thing, as opposed to like running and getting a shot on someone and just pulling the trigger and pressing the right mouse button. Like it's a whole tendency and, you know, mental thing that I've built to play this game, and now it's changed. And it's very difficult for me to rethink how I'm playing the game, which I kind of like them challenging me to do that in a way, because I don't necessarily push myself to learn new things all the time. And even if it is just something small within the game, like, I don't know, I like to be challenged, but at the same time, it does kind of ruin those fundamentals and the muscle memory that you've built up over how many years of Fortnite now. And I don't know, we'll really see who can adapt to playing quickly over these next couple of weeks. Because I'm sure by the end of the season, like everyone will be used to it. But for these first few tournaments, there's going to be pros who just absolutely cannot use the charge shotgun. And these might be some of the best players in the world, but because their muscle memory is built in a certain way, the way they've played the game for so long, it's going to be hard to break those habits and retrain themselves to play this game differently. So I know that doesn't exactly answer the question, but this is also much different than we've ever seen in the game before.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm personally a little scared to kind of commit to the charge shotgun, because if I commit to changing how I play, I know like personally a lot, like all my shotgun shots, even though I'm on controller, are like quick flick shots, and that messes with my aim completely on this charge shotgun. If I try to commit to changing the way I play for the charge shotgun, and then the pump shotgun comes back and the charge shotgun's gone, like then I'm gonna have to do a 180 and go back. Like it's almost like I don't know if I'm going to be wasting my time on trying to commit to this new weapon.
Yeah.
But I get that. I guess that's just kind of part of video games in general and changing metas.
Yeah, they always mess with shotguns, man. Like I literally like before the season, I did the end of season event that they did. Like I watched it with Bala, Shayo, MDF, right? And and we were all talking about what changes do we think we're gonna see in the new season. And Bala was like, they always do something to mess with shotguns, right? And who would have thought like this was the thing that they did to mess with shotguns? And it's like, you know. In a way, if you're looking at like half glass empty, half glass full, like if you want to look at it half glass, what did I just say? Glass half full. Sorry, I can't even speak English. It's like, yeah, it's kind of a good challenge, right? Forcing us to kind of, change a large aspect of the game, right? Hey, some people would argue it stops the game from getting too stale, right? But then on the other hand, it's like mess with something that everyone loves so much and is something that we've all just been accustomed to for seasons and seasons and seasons, and you could, really ruin someone's interest. So far, ruined my interest just because I suck
Same.
at it and I'm just not motivated to like learn how to use it. But we'll see, because some people are still like, advocating for some changes that need to be made with it. Like I know some players who say that they feel like there's a delay with it. I know some players who say they don't feel like there's a delay with it, so I don't really know too much about that. When I've used it, I feel like there's a delay. So, maybe they make some changes with it and it's something that, is way more accessible. But if it stays like this, it's going to be interesting to see how the season plays out, man.
All right. If you guys are good on that topic, we could do a couple of rapid fire questions and then maybe take 1 or 2 questions from chat.
I'm good.
All right. All right, yeah, so I got 3 rapid fire questions, just quick response. Favorite POI of all time? Leven?
Anarchy Acres has to be. OG spot, man. If you don't know about Anarchy Acres, you're too young, man. Too young.
Greasy Grove, boy. Greasy Grove.
I'm going to go The Rig.
The Rig. The Rig. Gosh.
Honorary guest in chat, Bella says Lucky Landing, in case anybody's interested.
Lucky Landing weren't bad. Lucky Landing was definitely not bad.
In a 1v1v1, Kit versus Ocean versus... Is Jules the third one? Is that the third mythic person?
This season?
Yeah, Jules?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, all right. Kit, Ocean, Jules. Who wins in a 1v1v1?
Shotgun.
Yeah. 100%.
Not the drum gun?
Nah, the drum gun's been nerfed.
Yeah, I don't have the drum gun this season. I don't have the drum gun this season.
You just get 1 pumped, like, doesn't matter. Or 1 charged, sorry.
That's fair.
one charge. Yeah, true. 1 charged.
All right, last one. Would you rather win 10 cash cups for $20,000 or 1 FNCS for $10,000?
Has to be the cash cups, bro. Has to be the cash cups.
I'm saying FNCS. Fuck cash cup.
Nah, man. Like, I know it's a quick fire question, but like just the 20, like at that point, you're like immortalized. Like, man said you won 20 cash cups. Like, how many? He's won the most cash cups. Unknown?
I think it's unknown.
How many has he won?
I think it's like 12 or something. I posted a tweet on it the other day, but
20? Nah, 20 cash cups. You will just be seen as a god, like in the Fortnite community, regardless of how people trash cash cups. Like you would like 20. Man said 20. You will just be seen as a god. It has to be the cash cups.
Yeah, are those like daily cups? Like, are we saying you win 20 daily cups, or is it like the weekly cash cup?
No, but he didn't say daily cups. He said cash cups.
Yeah, but a daily cup is a cash cup. Like,
it's a daily cup. The daily cup's a daily cup. The cash cups are the cash cups. Don't try to switch it up. Man's not winning daily cups out here. I'm winning cash cups.
Whatever. I'm still taking the freaking FNCS.
That's fair enough.
Bro, honestly, okay, actually, what FNCS is it? Like solo, duo, trio, squad?
I don't know. Take your pick. Solos?
Because the reality is, like, if you look back at flipping squad, the FNCS, right? I
don't
bet
know a
you
lot
some
of them.
people, some people can't even name the people who are on the squads. So
Yeah, we'll
like,
say solo. We'll say solos, and it's solo cash cups as well.
nah, I'm still taking the cash cups. I think, I don't know. I think I'm still taking the cash cups. But
I'll run around with that pickaxe, instilling fear in people's brains.
nobody's looking at your pickaxe, bro.
Yeah, they are.
Nobody's looking at
I'll
your
run at
pickaxe.
them with the pickaxe, and that's the only weapon I'm
Okay.
using the
Yeah, okay.
entirety of that next season.
And then you get banned
okay.
for
Just
pickaxe
flexing on
noise.
people.
Yeah, you're gonna get banned for flipping not engaging with people. GG.
All right, so that's that. Do you want to take a few questions from chat? Anybody in chat?
Yeah,
have
what you
some
got,
questions?
chat?
Yeah, bring them.
There's definitely stuff all the way up, but
Give them time. They need to think. I don't know, man. The cash cups, like people like disrespect cash cups, but cash cups aren't even like easy. Like winning 20 cash cups, especially if it was like 20 in a row. Like imagine winning 20 cash cups in a row. Like, come on. That's way better than one FNCS. Surely.
Yeah, but like I'm being totally unreasonable right now. You have to understand that I'm doing this solely for the pickaxe to flex on people for the entirety of next.
Fair enough. Not fair enough. Take the pickaxe. Enjoy your pickaxe. I'll take my what, like 20. I'll take my 400. Is that how much money is that? 400,000? Might be enough. Yeah, $400,000.
No, I think he said 20,000 total. So you get 10 grand more than.
Oh, so it's 20,000 total for the 20. Yeah, still 100% take that. 20 grand up. Lovely.
all right. Next says, who was the better podcast?
Me and you.
Yeah, I'll say Leven.
What? What? I'm quitting.
I would have said Boom and Talk, but my Calc podcast I did, like,
That was
I think
fire.
that was the most fun I've had on a podcast ever. Like,
Yeah.
he's just too funny. But I think I've peaked with him though. I don't think I'll ever have a guest as good as him. So, like, maybe I think it might just have to be Boomer Talk. You guys can like keep going up. I think I've peaked, so I'll probably go with you guys.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll ever reach the height of getting Cal.
Oh no, 100% you guys will. 100%.
Well, Calc's too young. He's not coming on Boomer Talk.
Sure.
Come on.
Although we set a precedent today. I don't know.
Yeah, 18, I guess, is
Rule
a
change.
boomer. Like,
Also, I'm technically a Zoomer. I think the oldest age for a Zoomer, so this whole podcast is a sham.
This is a fraud. Like this is like a false advertisement. Like you guys aren't even boomers. Like screw you guys, honestly.
I'm
Actually,
52.
Wouldn't surprise me.
52.
Yeah.
Your tweet killed me, bro. Like when you said, "How do you think I am?" I was gonna put like 42, but I was like, I think I put 39.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, that's more reasonable. It's more reasonable.
What do you think the Firefly jars will do to the meta affect comp?
Depends on what they do as an item. Aren't they like Molotovs?
I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how they work in game.
I haven't even tried them. When did they get in the game?
Apparently they're creative. I've heard someone say they're creative, or they were in creative at one point.
Oh.
But I don't know if that's the case.
We're useless. So new things. This is why it's Boomer Talk. We like the old ways. Things have always been done this way. Don't throw new stuff at us. Come on.
Yeah, frankly. But I don't know. It depends on how they work. Like, they could be super OP. They could be like pretty useless. Like,
Yeah, we don't know what they are.
yeah.
Where do you guys see the comp scene in 5 years? That's hard. 5 years is a long time.
5 years is way too long of a time. But hopefully, in 5 years' time, I will be casting the winning moment of the FNCS, or not FNCS, of the World Cup. That's what I want to see in 5 years' time.
All right, yeah. I like it.
No, I'm just playing. I don't know. You can't say like 5 years. We don't even know what the game will look like in 2 months. So how are you talking about 5 years? Like, I don't know. Like, that's too hard.
most exciting trio to watch?
They haven't streamed scrims much, but when they have like, I think they had one stream where they were scrimming or playing an event with each other. Watching Aqua, Micho, and CR like just running around stomping kids is so much fun. But like it's not, you don't get to watch it often, right? But definitely when I get a chance to watch them, like so much fun watching them.
For me, it's got to be Bizzle, Clicks, and Commandment. Those guys have been absolutely dominant. Even in this new meta, they're doing pretty solid. To watch what they did in pro scrims before this new season was, in my opinion, incredible, and they would have absolutely dominated trios if the meta stayed the same. Right now, they're still figuring it out, but the way those guys played was so cool to watch because it was the highest level of trio Fortnite we were seeing at the time.
I was taking two more. Bella asked, "Is Fortnite comp still alive in 2 years?"
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yes, definitely.
And then, taking into account comp, casual, and events, what has been the best season?
Taking into, so I have two answers for this. Yeah, I have two answers. First answer would probably just be season 9. Just makes the most sense. We had World Cup that season. There were a couple meta issues with season 9. You know, like people obviously like ballers, maybe you could argue weren't like amazing for comp. But like season 9 was just great. Like it's just an amazing season. And I think most of that is just attributed to World Cup taking place that season. And then the fact that it was followed up by season 10, which was terrible, like makes me miss season 9 more.
Bro, you didn't like mechs? They allowed players like us to win games and get kills.
Speak for yourself, big man. Speak for yourself. But I might have to go. I'm sorry, I don't want to have to do this, but the whole OG thing, I might just go like season 4, season 5. Simpler days, man. Simpler times. Like, because that's when I used to scrim. You know what I'm saying? Season 4 is when I like was scrimming and like playing against like the top pros, and it was like so much fun. Like back then, our only issue with comp was like performance. Like endgame was just too laggy. Like I'm thinking back on those times, like if we just had good performance in endgame, like comp would have just been flipping even more amazing. So gonna go with one of the OG seasons, like season 4. Yeah.
Taylor.
And that's when Ninja was the best in the game at that time as well.
True. I want to say World Cup, like season 9, just because I feel like that's the most notable season of all time. At least in my opinion, like I just remember so many moments from that season and World Cup itself. I don't think anything could beat that. Like that's what got me into comp Fortnite. I was definitely involved beforehand, but like that was really what got me interested and bought in.
Personally, I'd say probably either like season 4 or last season. I really liked last season.
Yeah, high five. Season 4. High five.
Yeah.
Last season. I think that's controversial. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think a lot of people liked last season.
I think like it's more competitively balanced than like pretty much every other season, other than Chapter 2, Season 1.
Yeah.
And they had some pretty cool events, like the Travis Scott thing. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, he did say casual. Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Then.
I just enjoyed last season a lot, and I really don't like this season, so it makes me miss last season even more. But all right, yeah, that wraps that up. Leven at Leven2k on Twitter. Your Twitch is it also Leven2k?
Everything Leven2k. If you want to find me somewhere, Leven2k. So you can find me.
And he had a podcast with Calc yesterday, and is that on YouTube, iTunes?
It's on Spotify and Apple now. YouTube clips will be up during the week and stuff.
All right. Yeah, that was a really good podcast. I watched it. So if you guys haven't seen that, definitely check that out. Taylor,
Oh, yeah.
at Somebody's Gun on all platforms. Me, One Up Analytics on all platforms. Thank you everybody for watching. Everybody's in chat right now. Appreciate you staying throughout the whole stream. And yeah, see you guys.